all set. There we go. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We're done with the morning. It's time to start the festivities for the afternoon. Glad to see everybody here. Hope you had fun at classes. Take a chance. Look at our silent auction items. Some great items up there. I've got to bid on a couple. Don't be late. Violin bird feeder, some nice mugs, some great dinner coupons. So far I've got a $50 coupon and I'm only paying 10 bucks for it. You might want to knock me out of that one. Be an easy keeper there. Today we will have our Hall of Fame ceremony. We have David Langdon here, followed up by an open mic, a dinner break. Then we will have a concert by Bob and Shelley Hudson and Glenn and Julie Warners. We are fortunate here today to have David Langdon here. David will be introducing our Fiddlers of the Year. David is well known around this area as an old-time extraordinaire on the fiddle. He's also, I would say, the ethnomusicologist of Songs from the Thumb. So I'm sure if you've been at either Everett or many other places, you've taken a class from David. Dave, are you all set? All right. Thank you, Dave.
Well, thank you. We have two people being inducted into the Fiddlers Hall of Fame this year. And the first is Marilyn Niewiek, and the other person is Oscar Jaquish from Northern Michigan. We're going to start with Marilyn. The original plan was that Marilyn's grandson, Terry, would be here and that we would do a little interview here. Terry wrote up a biography of Marilyn, which was very helpful for me because I never met her and I did not know her. But she played in it. But Terry was ill today and was not able to make it, so Bob Burgdoff graciously stepped in, and I'm going to be talking to him about Marilyn. And I guess maybe you could start by maybe telling me how you first came to know Marilyn Niewiek.
I first got to know Marilyn probably in the middle 70s or late 70s, maybe early 80s. I don't remember for sure. But anyway, I think she was the first person that I ever knew that started these group playing together at people's homes. And that's how I met her. She didn't have a big home, but she had a nice kitchen, and she always put on a big meal for us. And we had all kinds of people that she invited to come and just sit around the house and play. And that's how I got to know her.
Yeah, well, that's nice.
And then, of course, she played in my band for a while, too.
That's right.
I had a band, a National 5+.
Okay. Well, let me just read a little bit of this information here from her son, or grandson, Terry. Marilyn was born in 1942, and her maiden name was Melfroid, and the Melfroid family apparently was a very musical family. Her father was a fiddle player, And her mother and brothers and sister all played traditional music. And music was an important part of her life. She started playing the fiddle at the age of 7, and her parents encouraged her to learn how to read music, and she did learn how to read music, but she found it easier to pick up music by ear than from sheet music, and I think, you know, especially in her later years, that's probably her preferred method of learning and playing. She played with many of current and former Michigan Fiddlers Association musicians, including Les Raber and
Yes.
Bob,
That's where I first met Les.
Garbuer,
Yes.
and Dane Johnson.
Dane
Dane Johnson. So, and I assume she showed up pretty regularly at Fiddler's
She
Jamborees.
played with some of the older ones like Marshall Fail, some of the real first ones that I ever knew.
Uh-huh.
And Lou Smith and all those guys. She
Oh.
played with them a lot.
Okay. As a young woman, she worked for the music department of the Grand Rapids Central High School. She taught fiddle and tuned instruments. She married Joe Niewiek in 1972, and he was not a musical person.
No, he was a car salesman.
He was a car salesman, and he was into cars.
Yeah. I think that's how Terry got involved.
Yeah, so he, anyway, that Marilyn started playing on the stage at car shows, and especially at the Buckley Tractor Show.
Yes.
And I guess she played up there for a long enough time that she has a bench with her name on it up there at Buckley now to recognize her
Yes.
contribution to that event. She worked at Interstate Trucking as the president's personal assistant for many years and did all their commercial art for advertising. And so in addition to being a musician, she was an artist of some skill, and she made cards for her family, birthday cards and such, that a lot of times would depict a special event that happened during the year for them. She also had a chance to play for Gerald Ford, former president Gerald Ford, when he came to Michigan, and also played for Peter Secchia, former ambassador to Italy. And Dick Evans had, apparently, a man named Dick Evans had a TV program called The Michigan Road, and featured Marilyn and the Hillsdale Fiddlers Convention on that TV show. In later years, she would like to go to nursing homes and talk to some of the patients there, find out what their favorite tunes or songs were, and then get them to sing it, and she would play along with them. Marilyn died on December 4th, 2012 at 70 years old, and she was playing her fiddle up until about 3 weeks before she passed away. So for her, it was definitely a lifelong occupation. So Bob, I was wondering if you could talk to me a little bit about, and maybe mainly your experience with Marilyn when she was playing in your band.
Well, she could play also banjo, mandolin, and I think she played accordion, and she played piano, pretty much all around. She played a lot of classic music, and she was very active, and she had an aunt, Lillian, that played with her a lot. And if I remember, she was around 80 years old when she was playing, and she was quite funny.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, when she come play for me at our band, when I had a lead fiddler, Joe Andrews,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes he couldn't make it, so I'd have her fill in. And but she didn't drive because she'd get lost. She got 2 miles away from her house. She didn't know directions. And that's how I got acquainted with her grandson, Terry. He'd bring her over in a truck, and I don't think he even had a license at that time. He was a pretty young kid. But anyway, he'd bring her over, and then he'd come pick her up when we got home. But she played some good old-fashioned tunes like Put On Your Old Gray Bonnet and them old-time songs like that. And she played a song that I can't remember how to pronounce it, something about the Repass Band or something. I don't know
Oh,
if
the
anybody knows that.
Repass Band March.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she loved to play that. And then she also played a song called Chinatown. And I repaired quite a few of her fiddles. Me and Dane Johnson was her repair people. So,
Right,
so,
right. Well, I don't really have anything more that I can add to that, so, I mean, I guess we're all set with this interview.
Yeah, okay.
And what are we gonna do as far as a presentation, Bob?
I wish Terry and his family could have been here, but
Well, that would have been a nice thing, but things happen to prevent that, I guess.
I've got the plaque.
That's Oscar's.
You want to turn it around, let the audience see it?
that's Oscar.
That's the wrong one.
Marilyn.
That's Oscar's. That doesn't look like Marilyn at all. Could you bring that up to me?
Bob, I handed you the wrong one.
Yeah, she's a little better looking than that.
Thank you. There you go.
Oh, yes. Thank you, sir.
Michigan Fiddlers Hall of Fame. Michigan Fiddlers Hall of Fame.
So you make sure that gets to her family then?
Yeah, this goes to her family.
Yes. This will go to Terry. Terry and Robin. I got two. Thanks, bud.
Well, I think we're all set here. So let me take your mic. Thank you, Bob, for setting in. Thank you, Bob, for stepping in at the last minute and helping out with this interview.
Yes.
Take your mic.
We're done?
Yeah, we're done. So I'm gonna have Steve come up here now. So our second nominee is Oscar Jaquish from Northern Michigan, and we have Steev Pothoff here, who has known Oscar for some time. Oscar wrote up a little bit of a biography, but I think he was pretty modest about his accomplishments and what he did, and I've had some conversation here with Steve, if you want to take that. And I'm going to just give you a little bit of background, and then I'd like to have Steve talk a little bit about what it was like to know Oscar. I mean, I shouldn't say that in the past because Oscar is still living. What it's like to know Oscar and what kind of a person he is. So this is sort of condensed from something that Oscar himself wrote up. He was born in Frankfort, Michigan in 1949. He always loved music, and while he was still in elementary school, he earned enough money to purchase a radio so he could listen to music. When Oscar was in his 40s, his family gave him a harmonica and a book with the title Harmonica for the Musically Hopeless. And apparently, he must have spent a lot of time with that book. He learned how to play, but he was too shy to have anybody hear him play the harmonica, so he played mostly at home, and he says mostly church music at home. And then when Oscar's sons were teenagers, his wife passed away. And Oscar thought for quite a while about how to try to create some new, happier memories for his family. One Saturday, he went to town, he purchased a fiddle and a banjo and a bass guitar. And he learned how to play the fiddle. His sons learned how to play the other two instruments. And then they played music together, played at nursing homes, churches, and in other places. And then Oscar eventually learned how to play some other instruments too. And when he learned to play those instruments, his children also did. And then, having all those instruments, he eventually learned how to start repairing instruments. And he bought some books about how to repair instruments and also some violin method books to learn how to play the violin better. And really, with those two purchases, he kind of branched out in two areas. He did a lot of work repairing instruments, buying and selling instruments, and giving instruments away. And I think we'll have Steve talk about that a little bit more. And then he also began to give lessons to his own grandchildren and then to other people in his area. And then he also, one of his ideas, I think, coming back from a Fiddlers Jamboree, he thought that it would be nice to have sort of a music jam in his hometown or near his hometown where they would have a potluck meal and then play music. And I guess according to Steve, he did start doing that, and I guess those are still going on to this day. So, and Oscar worked as an electrical contractor, and he's now retired, and he is not able to be here today. His wife have some health problems, and he's, I think, spending most of his time now taking care of his wife. So, but Steve, we did talk a little bit earlier, and you said that you could talk some about what kind of a person Oscar is and what it's like to know him. And I was wondering if you could tell people about that a little bit.
Can everybody hear me?
Oh, yeah.
I spent a lot of time thinking about what I would maybe say about Oscar. Oscar is not a person who takes or asks. Oscar is a person who gives. And there is a whole lot of people of all backgrounds, careers, alignments, inclinations, who, thanks to Oscar, got to share in the one singular, uniquely human pursuit of making music together. Because Oscar hosts all kinds of different musical events, all kinds of places. He hosted Fiddlers Jams for the OMFA, and people can show up, bring what they know. And Oscar grew a community of people who got to partake in something that maybe some of us take for granted. I mean, most of us were here, and probably some of us were at Everett. There's not a lot of music stuff informally north of Cadillac, and I think a lot of people up there only got to share in the art of making music with other people because of Oscar. And people who needed instrument repairs done to Oscar. People who wanted to maybe trade in for a better instrument, they could go to Oscar. People who maybe wanted to learn an instrument, to rent one, get a good student instrument, Oscar. Lessons, Oscar. He did so much for so many people in so many ways. It is hard to summarize briefly. And I think not a lot of people ever took notice of how much Oscar really did for everybody. And that's why it's so important that Oscar be inducted, so that maybe Oscar knows that we noticed and we appreciate him.
Well, I think those are very, very kind words, and you know, it sounds like Oscar is exactly the kind of person that this organization would want in their Hall of Fame, and so I don't think I can really add too much to that. So thank you, Steve, and Bob, if you want to bring that plaque that you brought up here first. I think we need it now.
Bring the plaque back. This is the kind of plaque you would like.
Got the right one this time. It's Oscar Jaquish, I believe it is.
I shouldn't laugh, but a plaque, this is a plaque, and this is hard. When I say tartar, like tartar sauce, it's soft, but on your teeth, it's the opposite. It's plaque that's soft and tartar that's hard.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying the people who sat down and decided what words mean and for should probably have been fired.
No, I'm gonna shake your hand.
Oh, I've
Yeah.
only got 2 hands.
I know.
Well, thank you very much. That concludes our Hall of Fame ceremony. So I guess I'll turn this back over to Sam then. Thank you.